Have you ever walked into a store planning to buy just one thing, and somehow you left with a shopping cart full of stuff you never intended to buy? Or maybe you opened a shopping app just to browse, and 20 minutes later you're checking out with things you didn't even know existed an hour ago. Most people think spend is about self-control, but the truth is much darker than that. Massive corporations spend millions of dollars studying human psychology. Not just marketing, not just advertising, your actual brain. They study your emotions, your attention span, your fears, your dopamine system, your habits, and even your post reactions. And once you understand the psychological tricks they use, you start realizing you were never making fully rational decisions in the first place. Today, we're breaking down the hidden psychology tricks companies use to manipulate your spending behavior every single day. And trust me, once you see them, you can never unsee them again. Let's start with dopamine. Dopamine is the chemical your brain releases when it expects a reward. Notice something important. It's not about happiness, it's about anticipation. That's why shopping feels exciting before you even buy the item. Companies know this. That's why modern shopping apps are designed almost like casinos. Bright colors, fresh sales, countdown timers, confetti animations, reward points, notifications. Everything is carefully engineered to keep your brain chasing tiny dopamine hits. Ever notice how apps send messages like this? Someone just bought this. Your item is almost sold out. Flash sale ends in 10 minutes. That's not random, that's psychological stimulation. And the scariest part, sometimes the anticipation feels better than actually owning the product. That's why people often feel empty right after buying something they desperately wanted. The dopamine spike disappears, and the cycle starts again. So they keep buying, not because they need more things, but because they're addicted to the emotional chase. Now let's talk about one of the most powerful pricing tricks ever created: anchoring. Here's how it works. Imagine you walk into a clothing store. You see a jacket for $800. Immediately, your brain thinks, wow, that's expensive. Then, right next to it, you see another jacket for $200. Suddenly, $200 feels reasonable, maybe even cheap. But here's the problem: your brain was manipulated by comparison. The expensive item exists partially to change your perception of the cheaper one. Companies do this everywhere and all the time. Restaurants put absurdly expensive meals at the top of the menu. Streaming services create overpriced plans nobody wants. Why? Because they want the middle option to feel like the smart choice. And most people choose the middle option, not because it's the best, but because psychology pushed them there. You weren't comparing prices logically, you were comparing emotions. Now we enter one of the strongest psychological forces in human behavior: fear of missing out, also known as FOMO. Humans hate losing opportunities. In fact, psychologists discovered that losing something feels emotionally stronger than gaining something. And companies weaponize this constantly. Only two left. Sale ends tonight. Limited edition. Exclusive drop. Last chance. These phrases trigger urgency inside your brain. Suddenly, you stop asking, do I actually need this? And start asking, what if I lose the opportunity forever? That emotional shift is incredibly powerful. And many times, the scarcity is completely artificial. Airline websites do this, sneaker brands do this, luxury brands do this, e-commerce stores do this constantly. Sometimes there aren't actually two left, but the possibility creates anxiety, and anxious people buy faster. That's why limited time offers are everywhere now, because urgency kills rational thinking. Humans are social creatures, which means our brains constantly look at other people to decide what is valuable. This is called social proof, and companies use it everywhere. Bestseller, trending now, 10 million customers, most popular choice, and even online reviews trigger this effect. If thousands of people like something, your brain automatically assumes it must be good. This is extremely powerful because it bypasses deep thinking. Instead of analyzing the product yourself, your brain uses the crowd as a shortcut. That's why influencer marketing exploded. People trust people more than advertisements. Even if the influencer is secretly being paid, luxury brands understand this perfectly. Many expensive products aren't purchased for functionality, they're purchased for status. People buy signals, not products. The product says, I'm successful, I'm attractive, I belong, I matter. And emotionally, that feeling can become addictive. Now let's talk about one of the sneakiest financial tricks ever invented: subscriptions. Subscriptions are dangerous because they reduce spending pain. Imagine this: when you buy something once for $500, your brain notices. But when companies charge $9 here, $12 there, $19 monthly, it feels invisible. And companies intentionally make payment feel small and automatic. That's why free trials are so effective. The goal is not the free trial, the goal is habit formation. Once something becomes part of your routine, canceling feels emotionally uncomfortable, even when you barely use the service. That's why so many people pay monthly for subscriptions they forgot existed. Modern businesses love subscriptions because predictable payment creates predictable profits. And psychologically, humans underestimate recurring costs massively. Now, does this mean every company is evil? No, but it does mean modern businesses understand human psychology at an extremely deep level, much deeper than most consumers realize, and that's why you should also know these things. And the moment you understand the systems, you start noticing them everywhere. You notice why stores are designed certain ways, why apps bombard you with notifications, why prices look strangely specific, why sales feel urgent, and why luxury branding feels emotional. And none of it is accidental. The modern economy runs on attention and emotion, and your brain is the battlefield. But here's the good news: awareness changes behavior. The moment you recognize these psychological tricks, they start losing power over you. You pause before impulse purchases, you stop confusing status with happiness, and you stop buying these things just because other people want them. And eventually, you realize something important: the wealthiest people are not always the people who earn the most. Sometimes they're just simple people who learned how to resist psychological manipulation.